Belle Plaine City Council meeting in session. It should be noted those in attendance are Councilperson Peck, Councilperson Schlusselman, Councilperson Morrow, Councilperson Malcolm, Councilperson Landit, City Administrator Steve Beck's here, Assistant City Attorney Gage Kinsler's here, Assistant City Clerk Ashley's here, and the Mayor's here. I'd like to remind all in attendance, including the council and staff, to please shut off your cell phones or put them on the mute mode. That being said, let's rise and pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move to agenda item number 4, approval of the consent agenda, council minutes, May 3rd, 2023, and bills received.
I have a question on the bills. The $450 for the home inspection at 1411 10th Avenue. Is that for the final inspection?
Yes,
And that's going to be sent to him, right?
correct. Has it already been?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I had a question on that list too, and I'm just curious why it was listed this way. That 1010 was to the city of Belle Plaine for pool concession startup. We write ourselves a check.
Yeah, so we can access the cash for it instead of using petty cash funds for it.
Okay, I just figured they'd charge it.
So we can have extra free spots in the city council.
Where are they?
Hidden in that little refrigerator, look at the freezer. Ha, ha, ha.
I'll
Can't
take one.
even fit those
This was
babies.
purchased.
Anything else? If not, looking for a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda, council minutes of May 3rd, and bills received.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Resident comments. Now it's time for residents who have comments on tonight's meeting or items they want to bring to the attention of the city council to come forward and come to the podium, state your name and address so the clerk can get that in council minutes. And remember, we have our second clerk here, so do it slow and precise.
Wow.
You can do it.
Just trying to help her. So if there's a resident who'd like to come to the podium, please come forward now.
Tom Severs, we own property at 605 East Street. Just came here because the letter we got in the mail saying it may be a nuisance. Just trying to figure out why it's a nuisance, what we need to do, what's going on.
Can the chief or Steve either want to answer that? I'm not
I
familiar
can,
with 605
I can talk about it. I haven't met you before.
Steve Stafford?
Oh, Menards.
House has been empty. When's the last time anybody lived in it?
Define lived,
Taking up residency there?
before we owned it.
Yeah,
Now I have no idea how long before.
yeah. I know it's been a work in progress. I don't know how much work you've done, but it's just, I don't know that it's necessarily in a dilapidated state, but it's just been empty for quite a while and so on and so forth. So that's how it's going down here.
So that makes it a nuisance because it's empty?
Not necessarily a nuisance, but the fact that it's uninhabited and we know it's been a work in progress and there's not been a lot there recently.
Okay, so what needs to be done with this letter that we got?
I guess you can explain to the council.
The-
Plan.
Those letters that were sent out are actually pretty much a year in advance warning that if there's not some improvement made on that property, then we council may definitely look at inspecting it as nuisance property within the next year. So it's really more of a warning than anything else.
So we have a year to have somebody be living in the house?
No, you have a year to make some definite improvements in terms of what's going on with the property so that the council can see that it's actually being prepared to be livable. Or in a state where whatever you want to do with it, if you want to store stuff in it, that's fine too. But that property hasn't made much progress in the last 10 years.
That's not correct. That house was falling into the ground when we bought it. The basement was junk. There was no garage on it. I mean, nobody would have bought that house except for us. We bought it, put basically a dugout by hand, half the basement, poured concrete. We've added a garage to it. We've done all kinds of work on the inside. I mean, that thing was going, by now it would have been a vacant lot. It would have been destroyed. I mean, there would have been no tax money there or anything. We had done a ton of work on that.
So I guess we're asking, what are your plans for it?
Plan on keep working on it when we have the time.
When was the last time a contractor or yourself was there able to work on the house?
Sunday.
Well, I guess if the council sees progress, then they're probably not going to do anything about it.
So I might understand that when you said even if we store stuff in it, that could be like our storage shed, you know, people go out and do it, so we could store stuff that we can't store at our home in Cedar Rapids, that we need a bigger place for, that we can store it, or is it something that needs to be stored now and it has to be finished and have to be able to be sold to somebody else to live in?
As far as I mean, what are we talking about, siding and soffits here? I mean, so it looks nice to the eye. I mean, we were just over there now because we got a ton of hail damage with that last storm on the west side and the north side. I didn't go up on the roof yet to see if it's been damaged or not, but.
In answer to your first question, no comment. I'm not going to recommend that houses be used for storage at that point. That will not make the council happy. If 60% of our houses are used as storage units, what we prefer to see is that either you put it in shape and make it a quality rental project or a sellable house. But at the same time, we're not going to go out and go after every piece of property in Belle Plaine that people are using as storage units, as long as the exterior of the property doesn't look like it's run down. And so I think the belief was we hadn't seen much progress in that in the last couple of years, that it was encouragement to, hey, what are you going to do with this property? At this point, I would say I wouldn't panic if I owned it that we're going to come in with an inspector next week, because that's not going to happen. But if it was this time next year and it doesn't look like anything visible has been done, then there is a chance the council could vote to send an inspector in to inspect the property. So I appreciate you guys coming in tonight and addressing us, but what we're looking for on some of these buildings is what are people really doing with it? And yours by far and away is not the worst ones were directed at. And trust me, there were several other houses in your area of town, which by the way is my area of town too. I'm only a half a block rock throw away from you guys, that got the same kind of letters. And there are houses all over town that got those kind of letters. That I just had a guy in tonight and told me he wanted to know the procedure to get a demolition permit. So I appreciate you guys coming in, but we have no intents on doing anything immediately.
Like I said, a lot of times it's just better to come in, you know, eye to eye, right out of the, because I mean, you guys all know how the rumors are in this town. We talk to people, we hear all kinds of stuff, so it's just thought we better come in and find out what's going on.
Well, we appreciate the ones that come. I appreciated the guy that came in tonight to talk about his property on 14th Street. I've got 3 properties right here that were sent in to me that I'll take to the council on what he plans to do with his 3 properties. And a number of people have come in and talked to us about the list that was sent out. But So if that answers your question, we'll be satisfied, and I hope you get it to the point where you want to either live in it or sell it or rent it.
All right.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks. We can go, can't we?
Dismissed.
No, you're here, you gotta stay till the whole.
You're missing some fun stuff.
It's a fair question.
Any other resident comments? All right, seeing none at this point in time, I'm going to agenda item 6A. And at 6:40, I will open the public hearing to amend the current budget. That's the one you're operating on now until the 30th of June. Sandy has gone over this material with you. I'm not sure I can answer your questions better than she could. In fact, I know I went over it with her. These are all items that, in some cases, they're items that we got revenue increases in, and so they're going to be increased amounts going into the budget. Some of them were charges that we weren't expecting. Some are decreases in what we got from certain people. Miscellaneous items on here. Some are projects that are going to get moved to the next fiscal year. Like I think that's what they're doing with the
The police car that got delayed.
well, yes, the police car that got delayed, but the other one I'm thinking of is the new bathroom at Franklin Park. Some of it is simply movement of money from one account to the correct account that it's supposed to be in. So, and Sandy is much more precise in this than we've ever been before. I think she wants to get ahead of any of the complaints from the auditors. So she has gone over this with you previously. Questions? Public comment. So it's not like you discovered big bills that we didn't know we owed. It's not like we discovered huge amounts of revenue coming in. And we already decided that the landfill garbage one's going to be left in the red until the next fiscal year to see how it changes with the new garbage company. Some of these were insurance costs increased from what we projected when we made the budget out.
You do this every year. It's just that she did it in so much detail to
Yeah,
answer all the questions. So.
but easier if she'd done it in 3 lines instead of 65 lines of budget. And by the way, I have her, she's at a HUD fraud conference. We had to have somebody attend this 2-day conference that deals with, because we have a CDBG grant and loans. We have to have somebody go there and get the instructions, and it might as well be her because she's the one that deals with all the money. Questions? Questions from the public? I'm going to wait 40 more seconds and then close the public hearing at 6:55. 6:45. 6:55. That'd be fun. Let's sit here and steer the ball. Be worse than doing Iowa basic skills and the enforcement monitor of Crafty, you couldn't sit, couldn't start something too early. Public hearing's closed at 6:45 PM. Which takes you to item C, discuss for approval of resolution 230503, a resolution approving the budget amendment for year 2023. Questions on this resolution? Just makes it official that you approve these. We're gonna approve for certain income increases that come in, for God's sakes. We're not gonna give good tax dollars away. Questions? Motion.
I make a motion to approve resolution 230503, approving the budget amendment for fiscal year 23.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Last chance for discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we go to agenda item 7A. We're gonna have another public hearing, folks. At 6:46 PM, I open the public hearing for the rezoning of lots 8 and 9, Blossom's third edition from M2 to M1 per planning and zoning board recommendation. I think that was pointed out on the map to you last time. The zoning board took this under advisement. They recommend that we change it for the benefit of the property owner that's building what there, Steve?
Yeah, I can go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Davey Vile for those that don't know me. But I own that lot and wanting to put so I also own Premier Buildings. This is gonna be let me pass that around, just to give you an idea, because I think we're at a communication, something's going on here. So I talked to Mark just a little while ago. We were kind of going over the plans, and I don't think changing the zoning still gets me to where I think what's happened is the variance board thinks that the property line or the property is at the road but it's actually from the property line, is what Mark explained to me. And I think when we first started discussing it, it was from the road. The variance board thought it was from the road to the building, basically the distance. So I got some here, Steve, you want to pass that around? So that's the original, or that's what I originally showed the variance board, and gives you the kind of the distances of what I want to do. By changing it to M1, there is no variances on the east side and the south side, which is good. That's good for me. But as far as the west side, what I'm trying to do is utilize the lot that I have. And sorry, there might not be enough copies. I'm not sure.
I can
We'll share.
give that one to Gage.
So right now, the way M2 reads, front yardage minimum of 35 feet, which I would keep that because that actually lines up with the neighbor to the east, this property line. So I'd keep that back just to make it look good down the road. Now, interior side yard minimum of 15 feet, corner side yard minimum 25. I am on the corner, and that's kind of what I was originally wanting to do, is get approval to go 15 feet from my property line. And then it kind of got something happened. I think everybody thought as long as you're off the curb that far, but I don't think that, according to Mark, that's not the case. So I talked to Mark tonight, and he said, go back to this, and I don't know what's next. If I have to go back to the variance board and say, this is what we need to do, or what it is. Because I think 20 feet, I think they thought 20 feet from the road, which would be.
Yeah, we can pass this for you to benefit you, but for your property line, since I went through this, it'll have to be the variance board to approve your 15 feet.
So basically going back to the variance.
Yes.
Well, you've just been to, I think, just to the P and Z board, just the regular planning and zoning, or is it the variance?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
You've
So
gone
with
through that.
Dan Foley and.
Yeah, I think because they agreed that it didn't need to go to the variance board
Right.
the first time.
but now it
So the
does.
second
Yes.
part will have to go to the variance board, but we can't go ahead and change the zoning on this tonight. You'll
Yeah.
just have to go to the
That's,
variance board, and if you talk with Steve, he can help you get the variance board to set up a meeting.
Okay.
I don't think there'll be a problem with it either.
okay. Nope, that works. Thank you.
You'll contact me or shall I contact you?
Yeah, yeah, just call me or something, yeah.
Anything else you want the council to know?
As far as this property goes, no.
Okay. Any other public comment? We are in a public hearing. All right, seeing no comments from, no comments from anyone else on the council. I will close the public hearing at 6:51 p.m. And because this is an ordinance change, discuss for possible passage of the first reading of ordinance 2035, and ordinance that amends section 165.05 of the Belplain Municipal Code to change the zoning of the property located in the southeast corner of 11th Street, First Avenue in Belplain. As we pretty much traditionally hold to, I never allow you to do all three readings of the ordinance in one session. So I will allow you, if you would like to, pass this ordinance reading one tonight, and next meeting, I'll let you pass the second reading, and I'll let you waive your third reading. But I can't let you cram three readings through in one night. So unless something big blows up in the next month, you're not gonna have a problem with this, and I don't think you'll have a problem with the variance board, especially if they go down and look at that section area where you're gonna build it, and this has to be an improvement to what's going on down there anyway. Vast improvement. In fact, those folks should have drove down 11th Street, taken a look at one of those houses down at the end of 11th Street that should be a part of the haunted house property.
Agree.
Well, they got a letter. I think it's gonna get more than a letter. In fact, I don't think he did get more than
Are you talking on the, can I speak on that?
a letter. Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna go back up. Are you talking, I can't remember the address, but it'd be Roggentines.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm in the process of buying that right now. And I talked to Sandy a little bit about it. She was gonna put it, I thought she was gonna put it in notes, but we didn't. I am in the process of buying that right now. I got the abstract yesterday, so we are starting that process. And I guess I can tell you my plans with it.
Sure, go ahead.
Did you get
Might
the
as well know in
limousine?
advance.
What's that?
Did you get the limousine?
I wish there was a limousine. I don't think, unless it's gone, I think that might be the problem.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. But my plan is, so I talked to the chief fire department. They are gonna use it for training. So I talked to chief the other day, whenever it was, and they are going to plan on taking it, basically burn it down in September. So currently, right now, I'm mowing the lawn. So until that's in my name, then I can actually start cleaning up the property. And then basically just clean up the area, and then September comes, the house will be set on fire. So just wanted to let everybody know that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's a plus.
That's
folks. So you're on your first reading of this ordinance to change the zoning. Any discussion on this? If not, I'll take a motion.
Move to pass the first reading of ordinance 23-5, which amends the section 165.05 of the Belplain Municipal Code to change the zoning of the property at the southwest corner of 11th Street and First Avenue in Belplain, Iowa.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. You'll see it on the agenda at the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Vile. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Brian, you're on the podium.
Okay, hello, everybody. So yeah, I'm here to give the director's report because Ashley is at a Main Street, Iowa function today. So the first, I'm just gonna go down what she prepared here. The BioCells, she has contacted Main Street, Iowa for a resource for the BioCells. So she got somebody to work with that's handling it today. And so she's gonna be consulting with, I think it's this Amy Bozick or whatever, Bozick. So, you know, I guess personally, I've always said I started last year, whatever, this is gonna be a 2 to 3 year thing to shape them up. So anyway, Ashley's gonna do some research on it and we'll go from there. Currently, I wanna talk about rocking and mulching, but the first thing is we did reach out to the businesses about adopting these BioCells to weed them, you know, and that's the only thing right now is to weed them. And I'm proud to say that she's got like half of these pretty much, which is the corner ones. I would probably try to get involved a little bit later this week, if not next week, to try to get some other people involved in it. Judy, I don't think she's put it on social media yet to adopt yet. I don't think
I
so.
haven't seen anything yet.
I think this was just half of them just by her going knocking on the door of the downtown businesses. So hopefully we get more adopted. And we put markers in there to say to adopt, you know, do you want to adopt this? Go through City Hall. And then there's then the ones that have adopted or it says who adopted them. Okay. This is something West Union, Iowa. It's something I'm sure Main Street's going to tell her, and now we've got that executed. Switching subjects to rocking, the way I understand that a volunteer that's already volunteered to adopt would like to possibly put some rock in these BioCell, in her BioCell, her, him, I don't know who it is, BioCell. So ironically, Wednesday, Casey Newhouse and me and Ashley took a walk around all of them and made a few notes. And it's like, yeah, I mean, we definitely, I think, need to look at getting some river rock. I know when she gets back, we were going to measure the BioCells and kind of do some math on what we could do. So tonight, because I think it was going to be on the agenda anyway, you know, it's something for the council, the city to be thinking about. Would you pay a little bit or use your trucking if the quarry has 2-inch river rock over there? Is the quarry in Tama or somewhere? So, and then mulching, yeah, few of them we could mulch. You can't do those rectangle ones, that's for sure, because of the drainage. And like the museum, I seen somebody mulch that one time. Well, mulch is all down in the corner. So another day, I mean, we need to talk about that. Meeting another day soon, the next few weeks. So in the meantime, hopefully we can get these all weeded. And it is good that some of these flowers that were planted last year appeared to be dead. They're coming up, but they're going to be behind, and it's all on the south side, and they're more in that rectangle. So give it time. So anybody have a question or comment on the BioCells?
Well, that's why it's on their committee of the whole tonight to discuss A, are we gonna put river rock in there? B, I looked up, we can take it out of economic development account, folks. And it's to Steve, are we all right putting more rock in those? That's not gonna affect our drainage, is it?
No,
But I'm sure mulching is what we don't want.
we experimented with mulch and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It floated and then it clogged the drain.
Yep.
So bare dirt, sometimes if we got a big rain, floated and the rock kind of helped keep things from eroding when we get a big rain event.
How much trouble getting,
It's a little trouble right now. but
yeah, I knew that.
It can be done.
All right, there's probably by the end of this meeting, there'll be river rock available.
Okay. And then I also wanted to say, this is important too. is going forward, it's community development's wish that, we, we only went through the city on the dot because it just makes sense. Your hours, you're open, 9 hours a day. And then if somebody's questioning the biocels, it'd be great if they go right to Ashley, since community development's kind of taking this thing. And then Ashley would consult with Casey and me, and Judy's kind of on that little committee. And it's like, but it just needs to be consistency, and if there's a question that we can't answer to the public or volunteer, then we'll go to the mayor or Steve, But that way we're just funneling stuff.
So you're ready for me to, instead of saying, send it to Brian, send it to
I am. I'm
Ashley?
the second. I told community development, we didn't go to Ashley.
Because when the
And it's
complaints came to me, I said, you gotta go talk to Ashley, because she's new on the job. She had nothing to do with the biocels. Go
Yep.
see Brian and
That's-
see where they're at.
I have a lot to do with it.
I'll send them to Ashley now. It's ready, she's ready.
She's
to-
fired up for it.
All right.
And I should say this too, on an important note too, I talked to John Sluice, which is subject to the sound park. And I don't really have a comment on it tonight, but we did have a good talk Monday afternoon on the phone. And he basically has a suggestion, but he's basically open to do whatever community development wishes to do / city council. So we'll leave it at that, but we're gonna, and there's a volunteer group that came to Ashley to get it weeded soon, meaning hopefully in the next week or two. So, but we gotta come up with a plan for that, and that's, let's don't worry about that. I mean, tonight, I'm just giving you an FYI. July 3rd, is middle.
Let me ask about the bios. When you say you're referring them to City Hall, like if people are wanting to adopt them,
Correct.
what?
Then you send them to us.
Okay, that's what I
It's-
figured.
you're the
but I wanted
messenger.
to Make sure.
You're the messenger.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yep. Good. Good question. It made sense because if she's out of the office, just go through city hall on the dot, and I suppose it could, right along, that's where the decision committee developed a report made to go through the city. So for communication. Switching to July 3rd, everything's coming along. It'd be very similar to last year, which we thought was very successful. So I'm here to, I assume it'd be okay, but to ask permission to block the streets like normal. And I'll have to admit, close 10th Avenue to railroad tracks. I can't picture that, and that's down by me.
Well,
So,
that's by.
isn't that by
Gage's
Andrade's?
office.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Gage's.
So I don't think that should have been on here. She probably
Well,
accidentally put it.
if
I think
she-
they wanted us to expand. I think first we used to do halfway down Main Street, and if the car show's as big as it was last year, we really need to expand all the way down to where 10th Avenue enters 12th Street.
So do you think we should close it? That's where we have the
Yeah, I
cars
think
coming.
what you've got here, we can handle. I'd
Okay,
call it to the railroad tracks. Well,
okay.
if you're gonna drive across the railroad tracks at 10th Avenue, good luck. I wanna get the front row seat to watch that trick.
I got you.
I think it's between 13th and 12th streets and that.
We will do this. This will all go on the first meeting in June. We'll approve all
Okay.
this. So yeah, that won't be any problem. We'll look back and make sure we're taking what you have here and what we've correspondingly done the last couple of years.
Sounds great. Like I said, everything's progressing. Ragbri, she's working on that. It's planning right now. So there's really no update. Main Street sound system is currently not working. I don't think Casey's had time to do it because it seemed like she was the one on our board. But we're gonna experiment, maybe take it down to my store, because when it was across the street, there was no issues. And we're thinking the location down, where our office is today is part of the problem. But we just wanted to FYI you on that. Yeah, so she's got a rundown here of things she's looking into. So that would be it. Any other questions on community development?
No, I think we covered anything I would have questioned.
So then I'm free to go, right?
See
All right. Have a good day.
Sure.
ya.
Okay, let's go to the police report. Chief Hudson.
So I gave you a small packet of information for a couple pages, just our call log for the month of April. Doesn't look like much, but we've been busy, last couple weeks with the swamp. There's a little word there on what took place yesterday with our search points that we did. Tahoe, I don't have good news for you all with that vehicle. It's been in the shop now for a week over in Blairstown, Tice Motors. It's throwing check engine light, just kind of a conglomeration of issues that they've been sorting through over there. The mechanic has been communicating with me pretty regularly, but it sounds like after today, it's gonna be a catalytic converter to about $1,500. Top of all the money that we've already put in. So, on that note, I reached out last week. I reached out to Keith Brown with Carl Chevrolet, who we've been buying our vehicles from, regarding the possibility of maybe leasing our patrol vehicles and cycling them faster, so that we're not owning a vehicle and in the third year spending thousands of dollars to keep it moving. I think we're wasting our money, and I think we can do better.
Well, if GM would have delivered on time, then someone else's problem, not ours. That's the problem.
But we can't control that. We don't know what it's gonna be like in 3 more years when it's time to get rid of that truck. I mean, it might be the same thing. So,
And what about the grant that we use on the patrol cars? I don't think you can get that grant if you're on a lease.
I have no idea.
I think Sandy started to check into it.
I know a small community, that is, they're leasing their patrol vehicles, they're keeping them a year, sell them, and they're not even putting tires on them. They're just cycling them through, turn around, they sell them while they're still on the lease, and they don't have a problem. So it might be worth taking a trip and visiting with that particular police chief and see how he's handling that. So I'd be curious to find that out.
What city's that?
State time.
Well, I'd check with him, but I think there are a couple. One, if the delivery dates from General Motors ever get back to normal, there's no excuse for them not having that Tahoe.
And I mean, like I said, he's selling them. I don't know if he's got it for sale right now, but I mean, the way this Tahoe is, I'd be willing to sell it as is and then go buy a used patrol vehicle. Be better than what we got, because we're down to 1 vehicle right now. So
How many miles do you put on in a year, do you think?
on a year,
Yeah.
roughly 30,000,
Okay.
something like that.
Yeah,
Per vehicle.
right.
Yeah.
I'd look into that lease program. That sounds,
I
If
mean,
it's something viable.
I sent you an email on this. I'd like to have a meeting about it.
I forwarded your questions to Keith.
Okay.
And the guy from, was it Ruan or something like that, the leasing company down there. So, I mean, I've got the contacts. It's just a matter of me having time to sit down and focus on that. So, and then obviously we've advertised for our open police officer position. We've got 1 applicant that Steve and I interviewed 2 weeks ago.
Sunday, yeah.
The guy who just happened to be in Iowa, his kids live in Cedar Rapids, he lives in Missouri, and just happened to be here that weekend. He said he didn't have interview-worthy clothing, and I told him I didn't care, so we brought him out on Sunday, we visited. He was like a pretty decent fella.
He showed interest here in the past.
Yeah, it was just a matter of him, he just couldn't find time to get up here to interview. So, we're gonna try to move forward on the hiring process with him a little bit. We'll get him hired, he's got 19 years experience, he's 58 years old. That's about it. That's all I got for you. And then, sorry, the last 2 pages, just an updated city code violation abatement list. We don't have all of these served yet. There's probably 10 of them that need to be served. But that's the updated list. That's where we're at. And then, it's also on the agenda to discuss this, land use change for the wastewater treatment facility. We would like to try to build a shooting range out there. So,
Would that be, like wood type pistol and rifle both?
I don't know what we would have.
Would it be
Probably
for public or just for officers?
just primarily our department and then possibly the sheriff's office. I know the sheriff's office is gonna be looking for a new range because the private one that they currently use has been sold. And it doesn't sound like it's gonna be a range anymore. So they're looking for a new place next year. And if we have one, we can keep that here. That would be better in our hands. We wouldn't have to drive there and take care of that. So.
Problem exists, it's not in the city limits. So you have to go to the county for a land use change. Technically, they could turn you down because whatever the crop rating of that piece of property is too high for commercial. I don't think they do that in the city. The other factor is it's a $500 application just to apply with the county. Remember, these are the same guys that don't want a truck stop on Highway 21 built in Benton County. So that brings up, where are we at on trying to annex that property? If we annexed it, we can do whatever the hell we want with it.
I do have to write a letter to the gentleman, the DNR, telling him our idea, telling him our plan, because at the land to the south of it, the plan would be the range, the shooting would go to the south. And so that land is owned by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife or whatever.
Yeah, we have to have their approval if we're gonna shoot south.
He doesn't think it'll be a problem at all, but basically just to keep the communication open, let them know what we're doing. And we're not looking to spend a ton of money on this thing. We're gonna try to get the work done in-house and then donated materials, et cetera. It's not gonna be anything fancy, but it'll get the job done.
So let's go back to annexation. Be done anything. Done. We don't have to annex all those things we have in mind all in one big swoop. We can do it a piece at a time.
Jennifer and I have talked about it, and it just is in our goals, but it wasn't a high priority. So I haven't met
We
with her about
started
it.
it 4 years ago. What's it gonna take? How long is it gonna take to annex that so we can save all this land use stuff with the county?
Depends if it's voluntary annexation or involuntary annexation. Who's the, I mean, it's gonna take a little bit of time either way. I don't think it's gonna be done in a month. So it depends on how quickly they wanna move on it.
It's just all of the city property for the wastewater treatment plant. So it'll just be city ground.
Right, but we have to provide notification.
Right.
So many people within so many miles.
Feet,
I
yeah.
don't know how many people that affects.
Is that something that we can prioritize? And
I
can we
guess
talk about that?
Before we even do that, council, do you want to let the police build a shooting range? Because if you don't want that done, there's no sense doing any of this stuff.
I think it'd be beneficial.
I think it'd be an additional draw to be on our police force if we had a shooting range here.
It just makes life easier for us, quite frankly.
So if the council's nodding their head, yeah, go ahead and proceed, then proceed with what it's gonna take to annex that property.
And then the only other thing I think that would be a hiccup is that we could do along the way is just, we'd have to make something of discharging firearms in the city limits. For that would be
An exception.
an
to
exception to
current
that, yeah.
ordinance. Yeah.
That's the only thing I could think of that would,
That one I might let us do, no, wouldn't either, still have to do it 2 meetings. Cause there's gotta be something, we'll wait and find out when somebody in that area protests, you're putting a shooting range down.
This isn't an emergency.
this week or next week.
We'll get to work on the.
Call you tomorrow,
Close proximity.
Tomorrow afternoon.
afternoon.
If we could proceed and get this, what would be the possibilities of possibly making it public?
I think we'd have to talk to our insurance company and I have no idea.
Liability wise, you
Yeah.
just.
It's all on city property and accidents happen.
I mean, I like the idea too, but I think the liability situation would be really.
Become a reserve officer, you can go out there and practice.
Do I really need something else to do?
Thought I'd give you an idea how you get some shooting in.
No.
Somebody else might provide.
No,
the
I
ammunition.
just, because in the past, it's been brought up, if Del Plain would ever do a shooting range or anything like that.
I looked
And,
into
and
this.
after I seen this, I was like, I didn't know.
Used to have trap shooting.
Yeah, they did it out there.
Yeah, I mean, all the
Yeah.
time.
See, and I looked into this years ago. Bill Daly was still the administrator. To put it out here at the well fields, nice wide open area. And, the council at the time wanted something in writing from the DNR that there was no risk of water contamination, and they said they wouldn't do that. So that's where that went.
The rounds are lead with,
We don't shoot any lead.
they're not lead in with copper jacket.
No, we don't shoot any lead. So
Depleted uranium.
All right, let's start to work on that, see what we can get done. Item C, and I do want to vote on this tonight, discuss for possible approval changing the minimum ILEA payback from $250 a month to $500 a month for officers who leave prior to their contract fulfillment. We changed it to $250 a month, hoping that that would deter some of them, and it doesn't seem like it helps, so I'd like to raise it to 500. You can't raise the current ones that are out there.
Just the new ones.
Just any new ones that leave us, it's gonna cost them $500 a month to pay off their contract.
So what kind of amount do we start with on that? I mean, we know what the payment is, but what's the principal, so to speak? So what do they owe on that?
probably on average 19,000.
Okay, that's good to know.
Depends
Because I
on-
tried to do a calculation today and
Yeah.
without having a number.
Well, it
what do
depends
they
on
owe?
what year the contract you're
Yeah.
on too.
If
Yeah,
it's in the first year, it's 19 probably, but
Didn't we have to take some into court over not paying?
Still are.
Okay.
so.
The only thing I wanted to mention is Sandy asked for me to make sure and note that, if they stay all 48 months after they're certified, we are essentially forgiving, on average, $400 a month in time. And so the theory is, why would they only have to pay back 250 if they leave to increase that? So, just don't have-
So I'd like a motion in changing this contract to read the minimum payback will be $500 a month.
I'll make a motion to approve changing the minimum ILEA payback from $250 a month to $500 a month.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passed. I think there was read an email today too that Officer Toronis is completely paid back.
I have a quick question for the chief. When we swore in the officer last week, I thought we were at full staff. Was that wrong? Was I thinking wrong? Did we lose somebody recently?
It was a couple of weeks ago when I swore in the officer,
2 meetings
and we
ago,
lost
I think.
somebody in
in
between.
between.
Oh, who was that?
Andrew Markham
Mark.
went to Lee County Sheriff's Office. Clear down Southeast Iowa.
Yeah.
Never know.
A lot of cattle rustling down there.
You'll find that's a different crew. Okay, any other questions for the chief? Let's go to number 10, review inspection report for 1411 10th Avenue. think we just got a thing from our inspector today that said that all those changes have been met correctly, right?
Correct.
Steve?
Yep.
In fact, didn't you give us a handout on that?
I believe Sandy had something printed out that might be,
Yeah, there was emails.
Hmm?
Emails?
yeah,
Okay.
it's, in this,
This one here, Steve.
yeah.
So that one should be ready to go, right?
Yes, Mike sent an email and said that everything had been addressed. I actually stopped by to look it over because I just wanted to see, I went in it earlier and I just wanted to see how it looked after he got done.
Any questions on that one? I don't actually think we have to pass anything on that. As long as that last email said,
Is that for sale or is that being
It's
leased?
gonna be a rental.
Okay.
And there were just a couple more things he needed to do. And then it was gonna be available. I can't remember if it was the 1st of June or something like that.
It's got a lot of history.
for what you say. We don't want phone calls. Fine piece of property. There's no comments or nothing to discuss there. Our inspector, as long as the bill's been sent to Rusty Wright, we will move on. The one I'm sure you were all loving to get to. Discuss for possible passage of the first reading of ordinance 22-3, which would amend the code of ordinances for the city of Belle Plaine by amending the provisions pertaining to the water rate charge. Water rates would go from $7.38 per thousand to $7.82 per thousand, and out-of-town rates would go from $9.43 to $9.99 per thousand. If you look at the information sheet that Sandy provided you, depending on how you look at it, whether the average CPI for the last 12 months has been 7.3%. But if you break it down into increments, it's ranged all the way from 9.5 to 5.9%, and the latest one that came out's lower than that. So I had recommended we go with a 5.9 increase for both water and sewer rates, which is the lower end of those. But you have right as a city council to, we know there'll be something done when you do a water plant. But I don't feel like there's any need to go after, raise that to some fictional amount that we don't know what it's gonna be yet. So if we go after what the CPI has shown in the last couple of months, is closer to that 5.9%. But I'll leave that up to you. If you want to change that and go with one of the rates that's on this sheet. Discussion.
I think the 5.9 is reasonable.
I didn't like 6.1 because it was a 45-cent increase, and the way it is, you're going 44 cents, so leave it there. The others would give you a bigger bang, but you're gonna end up raising them higher than that once you come up with a water supply plan. So I thought go with the low side. And you have to get this done in May and June because this has to go into effect for July billing.
Yeah.
And I'll
Go 3 readings.
3 separate readings, so the public has a chance to come in here and comment to this. I mean, I'd love to say no increase at all, leave it where it's at, but we've been struggling the last umpteen years in water and sewer trying to.
Mayor, is the ordinance on number 11 and 12, that's wrong, correct?
It should be 23.3
On the agenda,
Yes, yes, change that. I didn't catch
23.3 and 23.4, correct?
Yes. You guys need to lecture Sandy. Don't say anything, I'll get her on. She's not here tomorrow, I'll lecture her on Friday. How's
We'll
it?
just put the blame on Ashley.
She's here. Yes, good point.
3% every time.
Well, we're doing more than 3% on the sewer. I mean,
No, because of the, dry reservoir, aren't we having to raise it every year, hopefully?
at least
At least
3%.
3%.
So we're doing on the basis of CPI, which
Right.
is what our ordinance
Okay.
says, so.
I just wanted to make sure that it was this and then not adding in addition to them.
I think probably at the time we started talking about that, based on the CPI increases were smaller than 3, and so that's why it's 3, but
Right, okay. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't in addition to.
no, this is just, that's
Right.
just before.
Actually, 5.9% not bad for what the inflation of the economy's been.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years, and the economy's gotta be inflationary COVID helped drive essential workers' salaries up. And we figured out what essential workers means. That means people working in mini marts, because we need the mini marts open during pandemic.
Yeah,
Well,
spending
how do you get
$10
these
trillion
people to come
didn't
in?
help either.
Biggest example I saw is when I was in the hospital. They won't pay $15 an hour on Saturdays. Guess who? They don't have anybody working on Saturday. No nursing tech, so the nurses are stuck on their own. Because they need to work on Saturday, they can get a $15 job at Casey's putting pepperoni on pizza. So, inflation has to occur when you're gonna raise those kind of costs.
Don't pay people to stay home and not work at all.
That's over.
We're not gonna discuss national economic policy.
You started it.
Deal with your own local. Wait till you see what came out of that property tax bill that the state just signed. Sandy went through one part of it, says it's gonna cost us $27,000 of our budget,
Starting,
probably in the middle of next year.
That's just one.
That's just one item they changed. I'm floored at where they think we come up with that we may have to go install parking meters downtown. We want to see a riot. Wait till you do that. Maybe we should just put one in just to see how much times it gets vandalized.
Well, I think the 5.9 is decent.
I agree.
I don't think we have a choice. That's all I'm gonna get.
Well, our choice is more.
I know.
Well,
This
Well,
one,
you
yeah.
No, it's, I
I mean,
mean,
truthfully, you can't. I'm sorry, we didn't put that on there. You actually can go less. You're the council. You don't have to raise it at all.
Yeah.
But then when the water budget is floundering hugely halfway through the next year.
It's always better to go a little bit at a time than a big chunk.
Well, was it a 44-cent increase on 1,000 gallons of water? I think my first year at mayor, we went 87 cents on 1,000 gallons.
Well, and also in total, the total increase would be $1.14 increase per 1,000 gallons.
For
So
both
if
water.
somebody
For both
uses
of
3,000, you multiply $1.14 by 3, and that's what your
Less than one
increase
year.
would be.
That's still not very much.
No, it's not. It's under $5. So,
Well, you guys know we get that water free from Mother Nature.
That's good. Barry.
All right, I'm looking for a motion to accept the first reading of this ordinance.
I move to approve the first reading of ordinance 23-3, amending the code of ordinances regarding the water rate charges.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Last chance for discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. You'll see it two more times. Discuss for possible passage of the first reading of ordinance 23-4, which would amend the code of ordinances of the city of Belle Plaine by amending the provisions pertaining to the sewer rate charges. Sewer rate would go from $11.84 per thousand to $12.54 per thousand. I guess we don't do sewer out of town folks. Using the same rate percentage. Questions, comments? And if none, I'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve the first reading of ordinance 23-4 to amend the code of ordinance of the city of Belle Plaine by amending the provisions pertaining to the sewer rate charges.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Last chance for discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Ashley, have her change those on her form in the computer before the next meeting. Discuss for approval closing Main Street every Friday from 9th Avenue to 10th Avenue from June 2nd to September 29th, 4:30 to 6:30 PM for the Belle Plaine Farmers Market. Discussion?
Who's in charge of the farmer's market?
Some lady.
Becky, is it?
I just
No.
want to remind them that they need to stay in the street and not on the sidewalk at the museum, because I think Al a lot of times sets that up, so he kind of polices that, but I know we had garbage and stuff sitting against the museum that picked up a couple times last year, so don't mind it being there, it's just,
You're still okay with it?
yeah.
Being out in front of that?
Yeah, because we rarely have events Friday night, and if we do, there's still plenty of parking and access, and that's a really good location right there. I mean, it's good access for everybody, so it's not a problem at all. It's just that they don't need to be on the sidewalk, they should be right in the street. I mean, that's better designed that way.
We'll see those instructions.
Yeah, just as a reminder for them, because I don't think anyone's doing it out of bad intentions. It's just politeness.
How about our attorneys, are they with closing that
Oh,
part of
yeah.
it?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually not till 4 o'clock anyway.
And you're wrapping her up
Yep.
on a Friday.
On a Friday.
But I think the location wise, I think that's really good because you drive through, there's usually always parking on the side streets and it, you know,
I
it's a
think
great
that's the best-
location for everybody
The
right there.
best location for it.
Yeah, it's a really good location.
Be nice to see it get bigger. Well, looking for a motion to approve this.
I make a motion to approve, I've lost it. Main Street every Friday from 9th Avenue to 10th Avenue from June 2nd to September 29th.
Is there a second to that motion?
Also,
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Is Al still gonna be the supervisor down there? Have you talked that over at all, Steve?
We haven't discussed it. I don't have any problem with it.
I'll let you and Jay and Al work that out.
That was something
I
that
think does it
he
so he can be the first one to get the 6 cola.
Yeah.
I think
We love
He's-
Coca-Cola.
he's not on the clock when he does it.
Yeah. But he's always there from beginning to end, I know.
well, doesn't he set up?
He helps set up the tents because some of the folks
Help take 'em
can't set
down.
the tents up.
So have that discussion with him. Item 14, discuss for possible approval to grant a utility credit of $176.60 at 1006 13th Avenue, Belle Plaine, created by a leaky toilet. Questions, folks? I'm gonna assume this toilet was fixed, right?
Yes.
Questions? Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve a grant to grant utility credit at 1006 13th Avenue.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-0. Discuss for possible approval of renewal of a new special Class B native wine permit with Sunday sales for Cornerstone Apothecary, 731 12th Street, Belle Plaine, Iowa. I doubt if there's been any problems there with the sale of native wine.
I think it's an inherent part of,
Oh, okay.
it's a privilege listed under that type of permit.
Got it.
Yeah, they're just open on Sunday. They don't do any meds, but they
It's
will.
in the back.
Come on in, get some wine.
Have I been missing this?
Okay. Need a motion on this one.
I make a motion to approve renewal of special Class B native wine permit with Sunday sales for Cornerstone Apothecary.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Rest there is your treasurer's report, your budget report, and your solar report. Notes that I got from Sandy. Road use is recovering. Sewer is waiting on engineer Hillsman to complete paperwork so that we get the dough.
He called in this afternoon for an update and he did get a signed, changed work order 2 from WRH, and he has been in contact with the Iowa DNR to get whatever he was waiting on from them. And I asked him what the lead time was on that. I had him on speakerphone, so Ashley was privy to the conversation, and he wasn't really clear on when he thought that would be done, but he thought maybe a week.
We'll relay that to Sandy.
Yeah, she took notes on it. It was important, so I kind of had her come in on the conversation, so we
That will be one headache we have to get done. Sandy said revenues are running behind at about 3.5%. Says garbage will end up in the negative. We already knew that. And I didn't quite understand. Somehow we're banking solar energy credits that will pay off down the road.
We're making more energy, we're generating more energy than we're using right now. Because it's between, big heating bill and big air conditioning bills, and so it's like in the bank.
in-store credit, basically.
In-store credit, yeah.
And since we got off the demand rate code, that helps tremendously.
Any other questions? I would actually prefer you bring those other questions to council next meeting as opposed to giving me a further headache.
Are we still paying interest on that?
On the judgment?
Yep.
No, I believe, my understanding is that off very beginning of.
Yeah. I'm sure we are.
What the
Okay.
court decision is.
Yeah, it was almost immediate after the special,
Surprise, surprise, or they didn't nail us with more interest. Anything else on 16? Go to 17. I'm gonna reverse these, go to B first. So what I'm hearing is River Rock's all right as the biocells. Sandy tells me we have economic development money we can take. It can't come out of Park and Rec, because those are not a part of Parks Department. Can't take it out of road use, it's not road. We have to look for a place for it, so if people ask for River Rock to be delivered there, should we approve getting it? And
How much is this gonna cost?
Well, the last load of River Rock we got was like $499. It's about $29 a ton. That's no trucking. You figure at least $180. About what it costs to get a load trucked here. If we were to hire it, naturally we do it ourselves.
How many biocells would a load take care of?
Oh, a load would probably do no more than it would take, probably darn near all of them, probably.
Even the big ones, the big biocells like corners?
No, you probably, I bet you them would take, you could probably do 4 of them per load, I would say.
Okay.
Some of them already have rock in them that just have sand in it. If it could just be kind of
Some of
worked
them
out,
hurt to be scooped out a little.
just
bit.
work it out and get the sand,
Right.
bring it back up to the top so we don't have, otherwise we're gonna have 6 inches of rock and there's gonna be nothing for the plants to grow into, so they need some soil.
that's okay. That's all right with the council, we will, because you're asking people to volunteer and do those. Can't really go to the Donovan Fund and ask them for rock. I don't believe that's plantings.
Well, my opinion, I think it would look better with the River Rock in it.
My opinion was it looked better with flowers in it.
Wow, that
Ripped
too.
all those out.
That too.
But this is just for if people who adopt them prefer the river. Rock,
Yes,
correct? It's
yes.
not saying
It's not, we're
everyone-
going out and just dump mountains of river rock and everything out there. They have to come and ask for it.
So then it won't necessarily be uniform throughout. It'll be if one biocell adopter wants it and the other one doesn't, and it's gonna be all different.
I think that's what happens when you use volunteer labor on each different one. I mean, we have one that the one bar is done down there for years. It's been different from the other.
Mhm. Or you could put the river rock in all of them and then the adopters would just, as I
Suck it
said, it
up.
would all be uniform that way.
So I really don't think we have time for our guys to be dumping river rock in each one.
Well, do we have, so if we're talking about one person has requested it, do we have some available?
We got probably about 4 ton down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, to Steve's point, we don't want to just dump a bunch of river rock in there and have that much rock.
Won't have any weeds to deal with it.
Yeah, any plants either.
So I think it isn't, in my understanding, if I may, isn't so the whole thing's full of river rock. I think it's so that it would be used to kind of help keep the weeds down and keep the material, like the soil in place.
The one that was requested is a big biocell. One of the triangular ones on the corner by Norgard's. I don't know if we've had anyone request for the small, narrow one.
So the biocells, bioswales and biocells, we kind of call them all biocells. The ones on the hill, so the ones right out here on 8th Avenue, they take a lot of rain and the water shoots in there and then it has to kind of soak down. So it's nice to have some rock in there so it doesn't just erode and push all the stuff back to the backside. Some of them are, like the one at CarQuest doesn't handle very much rainwater, so it can be handled a little differently. Likewise, the one at community development, in the, like, one in front of the hardware store is different than the one on the side of the hardware store and the amount of water that they take. So that's just kind of something that needs to be considered.
Was the intent from them that they would all be filled? Was that their idea?
No, I don't think so.
Gotcha.
It's just instead, rather than mulch, I think it's just to
An
help
option.
keep,
Now,
less.
this question came from the one people that would we give them any river rock? And I said, first I have to find out if council is gonna approve that. Second, I gotta find out if river rock's gonna be approved to be put in there.
Right.
We know mulch is not going in. I don't think many people understand what those things do anyway.
Well, with Ashley and community development, going to Main Street, Iowa as a resource for this, I think we should
Yeah,
just
that's
hold
what I
off.
got confused
Let's
on,
just hold off
'cause
and see what their recommendation is. Because if we say, let's get the river rock and one person gets the river rock in the biocell, and then in the meantime, Main Street, Iowa is coming through with a recommendation for
I
something
think you're gonna
else.
find out what we already know. When you use volunteer labor, you get what they wanna do. So if I'm adopting this, and I wanna put milkweed in it, that's what I'm gonna put in.
The plan right now through Adopt a Biocell is that people adopt it to keep it weeded. Nothing comes out except weeds and nothing goes in. Because we're in this state of transition. It's just to maintain it, not to have a free for all.
I was able to get a copy of the whole downtown streetscape master plan prints from RDG and gave those to Ashley so she could see the plantings and the thought process and everything like that, so she could study it and know what the original design
I
intent
think if
was.
you do anything, you gotta keep it uniform. You can't have this, one person does this, another person does that. I think just like adopt a highway, they
Clean
don't
it
change the highway, they clean
Clean it
it.
up. That's
And that's
exactly
all
right.
it is. Get the cigarette butts out, get the trash out, weed it,
Mhm.
but you don't add anything.
So if they ask
Right.
for river rock, we're not to give it to them?
I think you're gonna have to wait because I think you need to make a decision and make it all the same. That's the intent. I don't think
But
you should
wasn't
have.
Brian requesting river rock tonight?
Yeah.
I don't know what other acceptable,
Medium.
yeah, that we could use.
Well, he was accepting that, but then he also, just like what Judy said, they just said they're going for advice from Main Street, Iowa to find out exactly what the original plan was for the biocells. So
But we got away from the original plan because we had to use volunteer labor. And we didn't put any money into those. We got Donovan Fund to put a ton of money into it. But the Donovan Fund's not happy because all the plantings they paid for got ripped out.
Poor return on investment.
Yeah. So what should we give Belle Plaine Development for an answer? Yes, river rock's available, or are you gonna river rock everything?
River rock's available pending the Main Street, Iowa recommendation, maybe.
So they want this done, I'm sure, by July 3rd, right?
Yeah, I think so. And
I was
PBS wants to
thinking
come in and
Memorial
shoot.
Day.
PBS wants to come in and
So
shoot
what's-
some
what's
stuff
our-
too.
What's our best guess? We're looking at $1,000.
Yeah.
It'll come out of your economic development.
They don't use it for biocells?
What's that?
How can you use the river rock? They don't use it for biocells, or what do we use it for?
No, I don't like, I just got some for the library, so I got it now. I don't like keeping it around.
We don't use it for any other processes other than landscaping.
Jay, is that total cost $1,000? Because I was under the impression that Ryan was talking about sharing that cost with the city.
That's what it would, I mean, if we get two loads, we're gonna have $1,000 in it, basically.
Plus the 180 for each trucking, so
Right.
12,
You're gonna be up, I'd
14.
say 1,500 be pretty safe number.
Okay.
Jay, was that for 8 tons or 16 or how?
About 15.8, about 16 ton.
So like one big dump truck load is $1,000.
No, that'd be probably two loads.
Okay.
They're about $4.99 for the last load.
And how much do we have that we don't have spoken for? Because I was under the impression that you used it for other things, but
we got about 4 ton there. But supposedly, the Wayne wanted some for down at the community center for something. But never heard nothing of that.
We can charge the community center.
Well, since they're going to Main Street, Iowa, I would wait until we find out from them. And those plans were in the possession of the development office when Rachel was here. I don't think they've gone anywhere, so.
I got more
You
copies,
got more copies.
just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, they were architectural drawings and they were there already, so.
Let's wait and see what Main Street says.
Yeah.
So tell them no to the River Rock for those that are requested.
Not right now,
Okay.
Are you on that committee or?
sort of.
Make sure you call Linda and let her know that there's no River Rock available for that yet until we see what Main Street, Iowa and Belle Plaine Development are going to recommend. Okay, go to item A. The Catholic Church has requested additional handicap parking. They have 4 handicap spots on street parking in front of the church. They have their own handicap parking, I'm sure, in the parking lot. So they're requesting 4, and I told them they better pray hard on that.
Where?
Going up the,
They wanted 2 over on 9th Avenue on the east side, and then maybe the first 2 on the south side of the church on 13th.
I
Street.
think it makes more sense to give them on the south side on 13th because it's level. I've watched elderly try to get in at an angle on their, and that's pretty difficult for
Here's
them
my
to do.
question to legal. Is it possible to make, let's say you give them 2 on 13th Street. I don't think you give them 4, because I
No.
think that if you give them 2, but they're only handicap parking during church services, that they're not handicap parking during the rest of the week.
Yeah, exactly, because the south side of 13th is right in front of the insurance office.
Right.
and that's, yeah. Typically, we gotta keep those parking spots open for.
Businesses.
I don't know if I've seen temporary handicap parking. I'd have to look into that. I know you can do, temporary no parking, temporary schools, zone loading, things like that.
I thought we did one for Athletico when they were on Main Street, like a
Pull-out
hinge
thing.
sign, yeah.
Yeah, we did prescription parking. In fact, that's still in effect. They
Mhm.
have the,
Temporary parking.
And that's effective because that's usually open.
Yeah, I don't think, my initial guess is that you probably can, but I just haven't seen it, temporary handicap parking. I mean, you can roll up the signs, like you said.
gosh, don't give me more to do as an usher.
Yeah.
We'll find out if it's all right to have just limited handy. I don't think you're gonna give them 4. I think giving them 2 on the south side of their church is enough.
Why come the Catholic Church during service or before service, just recommend it to the church and say, why don't we allow this parking for our elderly handicap as a courtesy?
Because they'll all start limping when they go out.
I mean,
I have a handicap sticker and I park at the top of the hill.
I mean, just an idea. I mean,
I-
you can always pitch an idea to a group.
Part of it's probably too, because with the addition of a new priest, that Catholic Church numbers are growing. They went from having about 120 at mass, to now running close to 200 every Sunday morning mass.
That's good. Yeah, I've noticed.
But if you only give them 2 and you make them only usable from 8 a.m. to 10 AM on Sunday mornings. And I will recommend that they put something in the bulletin about leaving spots on the South 13th Street open for our handicapped people. But I can have that guy in the bulletin, I think.
Just an idea. I mean, if we said that Miss Peck needed that parking spot right there, I think that we would all respect that and not run to her parking spot to park here when we come for a city council meeting.
Oh, I get it.
We would allow her to park right there. So as a group,
Right, no, I
collectively
understand
respect
what
somebody.
Exactly. Well, is it even possible for allowing the Catholic Church to put out their own signs stating, you know, Sunday handicap parking church services? That way, you don't, they would be responsible for putting the sign out and taking it back at the end of the service.
You don't need more work to do as an usher.
Oh, you're the usher. Oh, okay.
One of them.
I think it's a heck of an idea. Then.
Yeah, I'll bet. Found out.
Yeah, you're kind of talking just more put it on them versus the.
Allowing them to say that they could have the two on the south side of 13th, just having them before church
Yeah.
saying that that is handicap parking.
Do we
for
have
church
to
services.
change our ordinance so making it possible for them to?
Because it's kind of like when a funeral puts a sign out, you know, say
Yeah.
funeral parking only, just having something where the church can say, these are reserved for our elderly, you know, church-going people for Sunday morning. You're not inconveniencing you 7 days a week, 24 hours, where those are permanent handicap, just for Sunday or for certain Catholic holidays, you know, Christian holidays that they can put those signs
Not
out.
enough there for that. They can handle it before.
I have to look and see if we have to change our ordinance. I don't know if there's anything in there that would.
Check that and.
I can't believe anybody would complain.
Well, that's just it too. It's like, we're not gonna get ourselves a ticket, so.
Who's gonna complain on the handicap parking there on a Sunday morning for 2 hours?
It all be just, you just.
No.
Don't bring that up. Get high school kids to do the valet
Yeah.
parking, see how that goes.
Sure that'll go really well.
All right. I'll tell them that's in the works, but they're gonna have to work a little bit for us. All right, let's go to 18, Steve.
All right, so everybody has two different documents that are on the letterhead. So we can start with the single page document. It says tentative outline of well 6 treatment facility construction. So when we had our water study done, we didn't, that I could see, have any recommendations for any kind of treatment other than RO. And I think it's in agreement with the public works staff. And I think the city council that we don't want to go with RO treatment. So that wasn't spelled out in the water study. So this outline will be something that would have to be like an amendment to the preliminary engineering report that we gave to the USDA. Does anybody have any questions so far? So one, we would need to do the water treatment project scope of work.
Just, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. I'm really sorry. Just so it's on the record, the reason why you don't like reverse osmosis is the cost or the whole procedure, or procedure and cost?
So the reason that when we discussed it in our meeting that we would like to not go with RO, when we had our public works meeting with the mayor and me and everyone, RO runs water through a membrane that the only molecules that can pass through are H2O. It's tiny membrane that you can't even see the holes in. Everything else gathers on the membrane, which would be any of the other constituents in the water. So there's minerals, there are metals potentially, and it removes everything. And then when you get done with that, then you have to add water back into it because the human body cannot just process pure H2O. It has to have other things in it. It's not really usable for the body. So you have to
So you're
basically
li-
scrub it
literally like
clean.
Treating the water twice,
Yeah, you're
taking
scrubbing
it
it
out,
clean,
right.
and then you're putting
stuff back in.
Some of it back in.
some of it back
Right.
in.
Okay.
So the cost of operation for that is very high compared to, just on a day-to-day basis. So let's just say with well number 6, I'm going to try to use some terms here. So if we had a 1 liter bottle of water here, the amount of hardness that's in there would be like 1 gram in 1 liter. So that's like a spoonful of calcium and iron and manganese in the bottom. That's how much stuff's in the water. It's just dissolved. So it's microscopic. So when we saw the 2 bottles, and one of them, when you slosh around, had a little bit of orange coloration in it, those are iron oxide molecule or iron oxide constituents in the water and some manganese. So that filtration process took those 2 constituents out, but it did not take out the calcium carbonate, which is the white powder that you would get on your faucet if it dripped.
Right.
That's the calcium in the water, and it's pretty high in well 6 water. So did that answer your question? Yep. Okay. So also, in addition to that, the cost of operation is very high, and then the maintenance is high on that. Then you have to get filtration stuff you have to change out. So it's kind of like having a very expensive car. The cost of ownership is high.
Right. Okay.
Cost of operation is high. Cost of installation is high.
And that was agreed across the whole staff, that
Yeah,
nobody wanted the RO option.
The-
correct?
that's correct.
In that, the RO option, the process, that uses a lot of water in itself, doesn't it?
It
That's
does.
what I've heard.
So it does. And another issue with that is the wastewater. So when you have, let's just say, 1 gram per liter of stuff that you're taking out, you're looking at very muddy water. I'm not saying there's mud in the water. I'm just saying, using it as an analogy, there would be stuff in the wastewater.
Right.
So it's like, it would be like silt that we're running down the sewer that we then have to try to take out. Any kind of water treatment process is going to have wastewater from it as part of the process. But RO, in our opinion, would use the most water that would just go right into the drain that we could not reuse. It would just go straight to the sewer plant. And so as they get more plugged, the efficiency goes down, and then you have to buy new components and
So you constantly
like
have to
that.
clean.
so
that
if
whole system.
if we so as I go down here, I'll try to answer this a little more thoroughly, and if it just stop me anytime. So we don't exactly know what level of treatment we would want as far as what the plant is called. So it would have softening, it would have iron removal, and it have manganese removal, calcium, iron, manganese. And there could be other things that we want to remove too. Those are things that we need to have an engineer help us understand how to remove those. In well 6 water, the plan is, I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit. Well 6 water has fluoride in it. And the strategy at this time would be to treat the water the best that we can and then blend it with our other well water. So we're doing a couple things. We're diluting the amount of fluoride in the water to a level that's well below the maximum level allowed. And we would also be watering down, so to speak, the nitrate level from the shallow well. So one hand washes the other on that because the water quality from each location are completely different. So this, so a type of treatment required for removal of iron, manganese, calcium carbonate, and other constituents as guided. So if we ever needed to remove something else, we would have a building big enough that we could add another component. So if they all of a sudden said, you know, the DNR says we need to remove something else, you know, I wouldn't know what it would be, but you know, as we go along, regulations get tighter and tighter.
20 years down the road, things
Yeah.
are gonna change.
Right. So right now they don't regulate calcium carbonate in the water, but the levels are high enough that we would want to do that just for our quality levels. So if we needed to plug in some type of an additional filtration in the building, there would be room in there for expansion. Because well 6 puts out 350 gallons a minute. When we introduce, in the event that we have a drought and we put it into the system, we blend it out on 21st Street, but we're not running it at full capacity. We're running it about, you know, 150 gallons a minute. Is that pretty close, Jay? So that there's a blend of like 70-30. So the well field 70%, well 630, so that we can bring that hardness level down. And then it has time to blend by the time it gets to the first customer. So then another step would be sizing the infrastructure and the preliminary layout of the plant, where our existing water mains are, how we'd have to tie in, what valves, and then our route. If we would decide that we wanted to run a separate water main back out to 21st Street so that we could then open the valves on First Avenue to have a 12-inch main coming back into town. So when we run well 6, we shut off First Avenue and run all of the well water from 6 north and not into town. So well 6 water never comes into town until it's blended with the other wells. That's not how it was done in the past. Because we just don't think that, you know, that's just the kind of the best bang for your buck, and everybody kind of gets a similar product. Whereas if someone lived right next to well 6, they would just only get well 6 water, and they wouldn't be very happy with that.
No.
So that's the strategy there. So sanitary sewer. We have sanitary sewer on the corner of 16th Street and First Avenue. We'd have to extend the main out to, you know, wherever our site would be. And so we would have drainage and stuff there. We'd have to establish what size it needed to be. The electrical, I am working with Alliant Energy to figure out, we would need 3-phase electricity to this location and what the best route for that would be. And also, we don't have like real 3-phase at the well field. And that's something that, you know, there's a development site out there that's kind of in a holding pattern, that it would be great if Alliant Energy would run 3-phase to the development site, to the well field, to a potential treatment plant site for development in the community. Well, we're doing all this other build out everywhere else. So that's one of the things I'm trying to, you know, introduce. Telecom, I just put this down because we would need telecom there. It's there, so that's not a big deal. Stormwater, same thing. There's just kind of a ditch there. We might need to have some kind of, once we get the DNR involved and we have a building and we have a parking lot, we might have to have some kind of a stormwater plan. That's just the way it goes with new buildings now. 2, treatment plant site location. So we'll have to select a site, and that would mean kind of leads into B, which is land procurement. So we talked about several options in the past where it could work. And there's kind of one place that's better than the rest that wouldn't need to have any kind of condemnation process. So we talked about a site on top of the hill. Those people are not interested in selling that property. So if we absolutely wanted to put it there, we would have to go through the condemnation process, right, Gage? And like they had to do for Highway 30 when they condemned all the land and that's not a painless process.
That's contrary.
So it would be better to buy land that's for sale. So I've been doing some research on that and have had some pretty good conversations with a good site. So we would have to establish how much we wanted. And how much the landowner would be willing to sell versus how
Are
much
you
we
like seeing like 2, 3, 4 acres?
probably 2 to 3 acres, so that we had room to,
Right.
because if we were talking about putting a tank up,
Exactly.
we're talking about, expand, you just kind of want to have some elbow room. Well 6 has no elbow room up there. I mean, the fence is as tight as it can. I mean, there's no room to do anything up there. So then C is site development, which would be like the initial grading and elevation certifications. Since we live in and around a floodplain, if you ever open up Beacon Schneider, you can see all the blue that's everywhere. Some of that is going to go away because of the floodplain study that they did before I got my job was incorrect, like through Minnow Creek area, which affects some other areas. But in certain areas all around town, we have the possibility of being in the 100 or 500-year floodplain. So wherever we build this, we want to make sure we're a couple feet above the floodplain. So we'd have to build up the site. And the elevation certification is done by an engineer that says, this is the height of the floodplain. This is how high you have to be above the floodplain. And then that would be the ground level of the structure. Then the next step would be infrastructure rough in. So we'd have to do all of our underground work, water mains in and out of the building, wastewater out of the building, process water, floor drains. The electrical would probably all come in underground and be in boxes and have the electronics and stuff in there. So we'd have to get all that roughed in before we poured the concrete floor. And then stormwater piping, we would have to have, like I said, any new building has to have certain stormwater requirements. Then 4 is the vertical infrastructure. That'd be the concrete flat work, building construction, the installation of the filtration process tank and media installation. So depending on what kind of treatment we get, we're going to have large tanks inside of a building. And then we'll probably have to have a big tank outside of the building to store water. So what we would do is make the water to, make 100,000, 200,000 gallons of water, filter it. So we could do that in a convenient time, like during the day when everybody's there and can monitor things. Much of this is likely going to be automated anyway, just, for weekends and stuff. So we would want to have a clear well storage in a standpipe. Then the installation of the process water and wastewater piping, electrical panels, electronics, variable frequency drives, conduit, low voltage telecom, etc. And then 5 would be like inspection, startup testing, system integration. So that's kind of the high level of what needs to happen for this project. There are many steps in between there. This is, like I said, just the high level. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so since I talked to a couple of my city administrator mentors that have been doing this a very long time. And I said, how have you guys went about this process of, we know kind of what we want and kind of where we want it to be, and we don't know all the details. We don't know what the size of the filter would be, or how many, or what we'd put inside the filters. That has to kind of be engineered with, a chemical engineer, mechanical engineer, those types of things. They said that what they recommend would be to put out an RFQ rather than an RFP, because we don't have in my understanding, we don't have a water treatment plant design right now. All we have is RO design. So unless we want to go with the RO, we're going to have it designed. So they recommended that we do a RFQ, which is a request for qualifications. And they said, when you're doing stuff like this, you have multiple projects that you want to do. You have, a water treatment plant. You have possibly other wells you want to drill, possibly, water mains and sewer mains extensions and all these other things that go into public works. They said it's very smart to have a consulting engineer as your city engineer for your public works operations, so that you have a go-to group rather than putting it out for bid every time. At least you can do that, but at least you have a person that has intimate knowledge of the town and the best interest of the town, and understands what the town needs, what the council wants, and they're not at odds. They kind of help you get where you want to go. So with that, I borrowed some language from my mentors and then made it our own. So it's pretty simple. I left it pretty open, but I did call out that we wanted new water treatment plant for well 6, water standpipe restoration / construction above ground storage tanks. Because one of the next projects we're going to need to do is line the big standpipe, which is the 750,000 what we call the water tower, is referred to as a standpipe. That will need to have some engineering oversight on that as well. And then I also included some other things that it would be included with.
All the water that's going to get treated, put together and everything's going to go to the tank, and from the tank then it comes to the city.
So essentially it would pump out of well 6 and it would go to the treatment plant site, go through all the processes, go through the standpipe that's on site at that location. And then there would be a pump that pumped it into the system that would run. They would all be synchronized with the well field, with the shallow well field. So when the water tower, how it works, the water tower level drops, sends out a signal that says turn on the wells or water levels low. All the wells would kick on and the pumps would run at the same time. So we get a blend on 21st Street, then it would go to the water tower or come down the arterial lines, whatever the demand was.
Right. When Nick was talking the last meeting, he said something about Newhall.
Yes. So I spoke with,
Didn't mean to jump ahead of you.
no, that's all right. I have contacted Newhall, the operator there and the clerk. The operator said that we could, if we couldn't all get together to go, I'd be happy to take people over, or Nick or whomever, or you could just go over and, make an appointment with the operator, stop in and just walk through it. Theirs is pretty simple. Their town is less than half the size of ours, but it's the concept.
Right.
Ours
Are there
is-
any towns
It's
that are
probably just
big?
a smaller version of what we would need, right?
Probably. I've never seen their water chemistry results, so I'm not exactly sure, but Nick has familiarity with it and said that it would be similar.
So the standpipe at the treatment location, how would that compare in size to the water tower?
Depending on what size we opted for, I think that would be anywhere from, so the one on the hill is 750,000 gallons. It's very large. When I talked to Nick, he was thinking we probably want somewhere between 150 and 250 so that we would have enough if something happened or, we had to, something went down, that we would have enough to, so if we had downtime, we'd have enough water to keep it,
Here's a question for you. If you get the site you want and you can build the water tower there, can you kill that one up there? If you build big enough one here, so you build a new one, you've got everything you need, then you don't need that one. Is that possible?
That's a good question. So how our water system works and how a lot of them work is basically gravity. So I'm going to use some people's names. So if you are at the sewer plant, and so the water tower is up here on top of the hill at the golf course near there, and you're at the sewer plant, your water pressure is probably going to be close to 100 PSI. If you're at where I live, it's probably going to be about 60 or 70. If you're on top of 11th Avenue, it's probably going to be 40. But if the water tower goes down, like we have a water main break or something happens, it equalizes. So, there have been times when the Herman family didn't have water to their second floor in years past because the water tower went below a certain level. So that tank regulates the pressure for everywhere, and it's all gravity.
Got it. Okay.
But this would have to have a booster pump since it's lower in elevation, to overcome the pressure to inject it into the system.
Okay. Makes sense. I understand.
Overall, that tank is in pretty good quality or pretty good condition. It just has the technology for the coatings inside has gotten better, and we just don't want that kind of coating in there anymore. There's a different kind. To talk about that briefly, we actually have what's called a cathodic protection system in there, which puts an electrical current into the steel so that it repels the water, so it doesn't actually touch it. So it's kind of like a battery almost. So if we get the new liner for that, we won't need that cathodic protection, which is something that can fail, and if it does, could cause corrosion and tank failure. And that's just electricity that we won't have to pay for anymore. It's maintenance that we won't have to perform anymore. It's inspections that we won't have to perform anymore. it's paying other people to inspect it that we won't have to do anymore. So we're kind of trying to follow the technology.
Yeah.
So with this document, this is kind of similar to what we do at the airport. So the airport has like one engineer that when Bruce has a question, he just goes to that person. And then that person has other engineers that they talk to and go back, and their team helps us. And when we have projects, they lead the way through that and help us get the funding and help guide the path of how we go with the airport. This would be similar to that, but it would just put us in a place where we would have more stability. So like with the sewer plant thing, we didn't go with an engineer that we normally work with, or, you know, there were a lot of things went sideways. And if someone is like your, you know, engineer of record, your consulting engineer, and you're their client and not just like a one-time project, I think everybody could see the benefit of that. You know, if you had something go wrong at your house and you had to call a different plumber every time something happened.
Well, just looking, you hit it, I think, you know, under C, number 4, qualifications, because, you know, the DNR is going to be all over that. So it's someone who's got that strong experience of knowing how to deal with them. I mean, I think that's going to be critical to have the engineer that you guys can go to the.
Does everybody understand why I couldn't write an RFP? I couldn't say, we want this, we want it here, we want this many filters, we want.
We don't know.
And I don't feel comfortable saying that because I am not a mechanical engineer, a chemical engineer, an electrical engineer.
Well, there could be a blend of systems or a blend that someone's going to come up with that's going to be the
Yes.
answer for us.
So you're proposing we hire an engineering.
That's what this
engineering
is,
Firm.
to tell us what kind of,
Are we gonna have to pay for them all the time or only when they do work for us?
so.
Cities have engineers on staff.
Right. So one of the things here would be they would put out. So when we, after the derecho, we did something similar to this to get a consulting engineer to help us with all of our FEMA projects. And they called out all of their qualifications and who they have and all the different people they have, you know, from senior engineers to interns to, you know, four-wheelers or skid load, you know, they would put down any amount of money that would cost us for any of their piece of equipment, for a surveyor or for any kind of thing. So that would all be in a pricing schedule. So we also have the option always to, if we do have a project, to seek other ideas too. So it's not like this would give us more stability, I think.
But you didn't answer my question.
Sorry, go ahead, say again.
Is there a service charge every year for having?
Not to my knowledge.
So if there's not,
Like a retainer?
Yeah.
No, I
So
don't.
it says in the RFQ that the city's open to negotiating a per hour retainer agreement with or without retainer.
Yeah.
I think that'd be dependent on what the qualifications are and
So it's
what the contract says.
right now, when I have a question about something, I call an engineer and talk to them about an idea. I don't know if I'm going to get billed for it or not. I don't know how, you know, and this isn't I'm not trying to say anything negative about any of the engineers we work with on a regular basis. there's just a lot of there's a lot of unknowns. I have a lot of
Kinda
questions
like
all the
dealing
time.
with lawyers, you know, you get that one consultation free and then look out.
You're hoping that we have an engineer who, if we have to go to court, you feel like they're testifying for us.
Yeah.
And not testifying for the construction company we're suing.
Bingo, bingo.
I'm just trying to nail it down. We can't afford to add engineer to our job descriptions
No.
in this city government. We're already in, when the property tax stuff goes through next year, you may be trying to figure out how to make your own pencils around here, folks.
Right. So it'd be just like Gage, you know, Gage is a contractor for the city, essentially, a named contractor.
Well, then I think for the, write up the proposal and bring it to the council to vote on, because they can't vote on a proposal made through your report.
Sure. No, this was my first stab. And so I haven't been feeling well. I wanted to get this to you on Friday. I just wasn't able to. I had sick kids and I had hospital. It was all kinds of stuff. So this is going to, so if you all want to review this and get, you know, we'll put it on the agenda, and then, you know, if anybody wants any additional examples that I got from my mentors, I'll send those to you. They were more, they weren't involving the things particularly that we have, but, you know, I tried to use the language that applied to us. But I mean, I feel like, and you know, Gage hasn't had a chance to see this, or Jennifer, or I'll get it to y'all. And
I know you said it to me, but yeah, so I apologize.
it's all right. So I'll put that in my notes for us to talk about tomorrow too, is just, we have, yeah, we'll just talk about all the emails.
Anything else? Keep it short.
So went over the RFQ, the scope, Newhall tour.
Newhall thing, you gotta remember, folks, you can't go as one big group, otherwise.
It's a
we've got
council
to
meeting.
post it as a council meeting.
Yeah.
So it'd be better if we never had more than two of you go.
Well, that'll probably work out because people, you know, you could do it on the way home from work sometimes. You can arrange that.
Yep.
Right. And then, you know, they're,
Maybe make arrangements so you and I and Nick and Jay can go over, look at it, and then come back with a concept of, well, here's the guy to call and he'll give you a tour. And have the council make.
We'll work around yours.
God, don't all show up as 5 councilmen. There's somebody will be screaming illegal meeting.
so we'll work on around your schedule. So I'll let you kind of figure out when works for you, and then we'll make it work.
Anything after that.
So the director of housing and urban development came here on Monday to talk about, I had met with one of his colleagues at the Rural Summit, and he's someone that I've communicated with over the phone and email. And he's like, I just want to come out and meet you. I want to hear about your town. I want to hear about your ideas. And so he came out with his protege, and we just we talked in my office. We looked at maps. We talked about anything and everything, housing, development, business stuff, industrial park, water, anything that has to do with our civilization. And then I took him on a quick tour of development sites and infill lots and alternate development sites. And they really liked our town, and they said they wanted to come back. So since then, he's been sending me a lot of information that I haven't had a chance to metabolize yet, but they don't particularly do housing any, you know, like they used to be like a housing initiative. That's not their role anymore. It's more like helping partner and find financing. And I am still learning what their role is in the development of the community. So this was an initial meeting and I was really excited about it. I'm working with Jennifer Fensel from ECOG on the generator grant and a tree grant through ECOG. Through part of that.
The generator grant.
Pardon?
Work harder on the generator grant.
Well, they're the same document basically. So it's all part of the disaster recovery money. So like the upper story living disaster recovery, there are different buckets of disaster recovery money. And these are 2 more buckets that we can dip out of. So Jennifer and I've been working on that. I'm also working with trying to button up the Homeland Security grant for the Wellfield generator. FEMA sent back another RFI. So I'm going to be working with Homeland Security on that over the next couple days to get those documents to them, hopefully. And hopefully we can get that done. Unfortunately, any of the FEMA money, the Homeland Security money, the disaster recovery money, none of them allow for administrative buildings. They allow for fire departments, police stations, well fields, any kind of, you know, emergency stuff. But since we have a city hall here with our police station, we got disqualified from getting a grant for here. And I tried to say, you know, the majority of the square footage of the building is, you know, law enforcement. And, you know, this is our incident command center when we have something go wrong. But I couldn't prove that we had an incident command center budget for here, because we don't know when the disasters are going to hit. That kind of took us out of the running, which stinks, but luckily we know what size generator we need and a couple of people to hook up a temporary one if we need to. So there are other options that we could pursue. I don't know how in depth you guys want me to get about that tonight, but so originally
$2,500 you can get a generator for this place. I got 1,200 into mine and run the whole house.
Well, this building, however they decided to run it, they ran it into the building as 3-phase, and then they split it out into single phase once it got into the building. So it really complicates how, unless we rewire the whole building, it comes in and feeds into the building as 3-phase and then splits out as single phase, which is very bizarre. But that was one of the things that Bill and I found when that is weird. So yeah, that, you know, that was one of the challenges we had when we hooked the thing up after the derecho. So that the one that we had here for the derecho was a 40 kW, that's 40,000 watts. And it was, I don't know if anybody remembers it, it was about the size of this table stacked on that table. And it ran on diesel. So they have used ones, they have mobile ones. So we can try to get some different options. But if the council wants me to pursue that and use like ARPA funding or something like that, I think that could qualify. That's something we could look into.
Because I think you have to have a generator. I don't care if it's on a portable basis that you pull it up here and hook into this building. But we can't run city government out of the community center when we're handing out peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and 37 retired people are all joining the council in our conversation on emergency and,
So we've been working on this for a long time and the guidance changed and the target moved and, you know, we have been working on this for a very long time and it changes, and even the disaster recovery in the middle of that, some of the guidance changed because there's federal dollars involved and they said, well, you have to now do this, that, and the other. So it's frustrating, but it's worth it if we get it. So keep fighting for it. I don't have any updates on the FEMA hearing yet. Could be another week, could be 2 weeks. I don't know. So if we do get either of those projects obligated, we'll need to have Leon helping us with that again. So does anybody have any questions?
Where we at on the Harrington?
The hotel?
Nowhere.
another 10 years.
Nowhere.
No.
Let that baby down by April of 25.
So we're trying to go about it in a systematic way. So I've done the research. I have talked to Mark Dran. Our insurance does not cover us demolishing buildings at all, any buildings. Come to find out. So I'm applying for another insurance that is just for building demolition. And he is going to submit that to, I'm guessing, more than one insurance company to see if because, you know, we've been in business for a long time and we've torn down buildings in the past, but we haven't lately. And, you know, the Herring House was originally a 2-story house and then they built it into whatever it is today. And it's a complicated thing and there's asbestos throughout the building and we have to treat the whole building as a piece of asbestos. So if we're able to get insurance, then we're going to look into what it takes for us to get certified. We don't have, so if we were a business, a demolition company, we would have to be licensed with the state as the business. And then the owner of the business would have to be licensed and certified with the state. And every employee would have to be licensed and certified with the state. But since we're a city, we just have to have the education. We don't have to take the test or be certified because we're not for hire. We're only ever going to do, if we're able to do this, if everything falls into place and we're able to do this, we're only going to perform the work for our own properties. We're never going to do one for the school or for somebody else. Or so we're just taking it one step at a time. But it's, you know, it's we're not going to be able to start before June. And I think I don't have a timeline on, because it's just, when I talked to the state, when I talked to the DNR and I talked to OSHA, they all had guidelines and things they wanted to talk to me about. They were kind of interested that we were interested in this because they don't really have any communities that do this kind of stuff per se. So they had to look into stuff. So that took them a while to come back with. And they said that if they allow it and everything goes through and we are able to do it, they could count on the OSHA and the DNR showing up at some point. I said, well, it's, you know, I think we can do it better than anybody else. So, and safer. And so that's basically where we're at with that. And if anybody has any questions, they want to email me, just don't hesitate. Or if you, I don't know when I'll hear back on the insurance stuff, but Mark does have it.
Anything else?
No, sir.
No meetings to report on. I got a landfill meeting tomorrow night. I do have 2 updates on houses that we've sent letters to. One was to Don Ward, who came in tonight. He said, there's no sense of you sitting around here the whole night. His plans on his property on 14th Street, which is the far end of 14th Street, is to take it down. So I told him to go see Mark Braun and get a demolition permit. Now, basically set up a year to do something with it, or it will get inspected and we will be coming after. So that's the Hughes property. That one's gonna get painted and or sided and new roof is needed. 806 6th Avenue, which is the other end of the block from that one, is gonna be completely torn down. Oh no, that has to be the trailer, because the house is already gone.
Corner's gone.
So it's the trailer. And then 1307 3rd Avenue, paint and or siding, foundation repair, removal of back porch. Hopefully all these things will be completed by the end of the summer. So he took the letter seriously and sent back a report on what he was gonna do. And I can't report on any meetings I didn't go to because I didn't have any meetings since our last one. Any other questions? Anything? Yes.
I just had one thing that I forgot to add earlier. Once we establish what kind of treatment it is and what it's called and where it goes and all that, the USDA will allow us to amend our preliminary engineering report so we can throw that in so we're still eligible for grant funding. But that will have to be added in once we know what it is.
Jay, anything you want to add?
No.
No, you kept me here long enough. I got no correspondence, I got no old business, and we got no residents left, so I think there'll be anything there. So if the council doesn't have anything they want to talk about.
I have a question on a particular property on 9th Avenue that I believe, 909 9th Avenue. I believe there's some progress possibly in a sale or whatever. But anyway, the owner has removed the windows. And I'm just wondering if the city can do anything to button that up or secure that, because that is an open invitation for wildlife and people to climb right in.
He has the quit claim deed. He has talked to me. I've communicated with him back and forth.
That's the one they're giving.
So his issue is he works 12-hour shifts where he works and is having difficulty finding notary public to sign the quit claim deed. So I said, maybe someone in your HR department is a notary and you could go talk to them. He works off shift. So that's the big hang up, but he has an intention of signing that over. He's had that for probably a week. I don't know, but
We're 2 signatures away from it.
Yeah, what was that I signed this week on the Oak property?
That we've filed a petition for the 657A on both the Oak properties. So that process has started.
Okay, and I did send Chad 2 dates to possibly meet, see if we can make some trades on the property. We'll see how that goes.
And we also have, just so you know, council has the authority, because I just looked it up, to designate somebody or some entity like the church to put out temporary handicap parking. So we put in a resolution saying that they're authorized to do it between certain hours and certain days.
Okay.
We could have always put on there a requirement that you not be the person that has to put it out.
Yeah, that'll work.
I think you should say they
Make
made
a
the
big
only
hit.
one that put it on.
Make one that like that.
you can deputize somebody to do it.
Pancake sign that takes 2 men and a small boy to get that thing out of the boiler room and get it up there. Make a note that we need a resolution to that effect while she's here, so she knows it. All right, anything else? Keep asking questions, you keep staying. I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
No discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion carries
Where were you,
5-0.
Garrett?
Eight.
Just saying, I was gonna get 3 of us to
8:49
vote no.